What's going on, everyone? Corey here with the Gaming Tavern, back with another review. Today I'm taking a look at Star Overdrive, a brand new indie game that just hit the Xbox. It's been out on a couple of other consoles, but now it's on our beloved Xbox. So let's dive in to see what it is all about. Star Overdrive is an open world action adventure game where you are set out to find your significant other from a mysterious planet. So that's kind of the setup for the story. And you go on finding clues, listening to audio from your significant other. You're trying to narrow down where she is and blah, blah, blah. The story is really shallow and predictable and not worth noting too much. As far as the gameplay goes, it does lead into the open world exploration aspects of this game where you are exploring this planet, which is divided up into like three main areas. But essentially you are going through these areas, going through different dungeons, more on that later, and going throughout several different main objectives to conclude the story. Now, obviously, from what you can see, a lot of this game has to do with the hoverboard mechanics. It really feels like this game was built off of the back of this hoverboard because that's the best part about it. Now, exploring around on this hoverboard can be a lot of fun, especially once you add in different abilities that you get. You can get from point A to point B super fast, super stylish, and in super fun ways. But until you get those things, it can feel a bit bland, although it doesn't take a long time to start to make it look a little better. Now, when you're not on that board and you are forced to walk around, platforming and stuff mostly, it drops the speed of the game significantly. So much so that it's a chore to play because it is so slow. So I think it's actually to a detriment, some of the platforming in this game. So I mentioned dungeons earlier. So take a step back from the open world exploration part and you go into these dungeons. It reminded me a lot of, from my experience, Recore, but a lot of other people attune this to like Breath of the Wild. So I haven't played that, but I assume it's kind of all the same deal anyways. Once you get into these dungeons, you are met with environmental puzzles. There's combat sections. A lot of times you are focusing on a certain aspect of your abilities to get you through. And so it's okay. It does kind of bleed a little too long if you ask me, especially in some of those dungeons. So they're like not my favorite. I don't know exactly how many are necessary, but they definitely mostly seem optional. Now, of course, some of them are crucial to the story progression, getting abilities and things like that. So you'll have to go through some of them, but for the most part, they are just kind of there. The ones that I can remember playing, like you don't use your hoverboard much in terms of going fast and doing cool things. You'll use your abilities to do a jump and a dash, or your guitar should do different combos to enemies. It's what you would think of when you hear of a dungeon in an overworld game. You go into it, you do the thing, you get out. Back on the top open world, there is some combat that is exactly the same. It's a lot of button mashing and dodging, so it's really shallow, I guess, when it comes to the combat. Sometimes there are bigger enemies out there that you will learn that you have to use certain abilities on, and those can actually be some fun fights, but those are few and far between. Now back to the hoverboard part. It is most certainly fun to get around and ride. However, just to put my honest opinion out there, even when I have to get from point A to point B and I'm having fun, like watching the tricks, doing the jumps and things like that, sometimes this map seems so open, like a wasteland, that even that felt slow in the sense that I'm just going and going and going. They do put some things out on the way to help with that. There are time trials where you have to get through gates to a certain period of time. There are parts where you're looking for things. There are some enemies here and there, and then there's little stations that will either open the map or get you some materials or allow you to craft your board. Those things kind of help break that stuff up, but you're not always after those. Sometimes you just need to get to the next point, and it felt longer than I wished it would. Now onto the crafting aspect of the board. If you've watched any of my reviews, crafting is way down on my list of things I like in games, and this game does no help for crafting. The crafting of the board, there are a couple of things to take into account here. You get materials from scavenging the land, defeating enemies, and you use these materials in a way where you just dump a random amount in, and you can mix and match these materials, and then you get some kind of stat boost or stat boosts for your board, and you can make these minute changes and percentage increases or decreases. It really is overly complex, I think, for what it is. I think that if they would have had a simple add this and your board goes faster, that probably would have been good enough for a simple person like me. But having to mix and match different pieces in order to get the radius of the upgrade that I'm doing just right for what I need it to do was too much. And it kind of killed the vibe a bit. I didn't enjoy going and hunting for a lot of these things. I got a lot of materials naturally, so it wasn't a need to go and like find some stuff to throw into the board, but to find the right things, like I would have had to go and track them down specifically and then put in however much I needed of this one material and however much I needed of this one material and figure out different ways, and it was just not very fun. Now there is a skill tree that you get a different type of currency and you can just pick, I want more damage or what have you. And that's more traditional, but I didn't get a lot of those materials, at least not in the beginning of my gameplay. So like those upgrades came really far and few in between. Yeah, it just wasn't the best experience. So I think that Star Overdrive does some things well. That is the hoverboard and getting around. I think that you could craft a game around that is not an open world exploration game, and you could probably have something there. I think that this action adventure game that they have built is maybe too ambitious for what it is. Overall, the game felt mediocre is a word that comes to mind. So it's hard to recommend it when there are other games that do it so much better. Now, that will always be the case, but you have to have something to compare to. So this game is middle of the road, maybe a little bit above just for the hoverboard mechanics. So if that looks fun to you, and you don't mind the crafting, I would absolutely give it a go. However, if you're like me and crafting is like a downside and it seems like that is needed in this game, I would probably skip it. But again, make that decision for yourself. If you aren't already on xboxtavern.com, be sure to go there to check out my final score for the game. As for me here on Gaming Tavern, I will catch you in the next one.